forward to your presentation today.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Bridgeville Fire Department, I welcome you guys here tonight. I want to talk a little bit about the history of the Bridgeville Fire Department and go all the way through modern times to today. I'm going to start by introducing myself and telling you a little bit about me. Again, my name is Ray Costain. I am the fire chief. I will actually have been the fire chief 7 years next week. Before that, I served as the assistant chief, the captain, the lieutenant, all the way down to a firefighter. I've been in emergency services since January of 1996. I'm originally from Wheeling, West Virginia, so I'm a transplant. But I did begin my fire service career back home in January of 1996. I want to say what an honor it is, not only to speak in front of you tonight, but to serve this fire department, serve with some of the most amazing first responders here in Bridgeville Borough, and serving you as the public. So that's pretty much about me as far as my length of time in the fire service. Tonight we're going to talk about where we got our start, how long ago we got our start. We are actually 110 years old. We became a fire department in 1916, and what it was a group of locals that recognized the need for emergency services, and the true bucket brigade is actually how it started. So back before modern fire trucks that we have today, that's how fires were put out. Anybody around would start slinging buckets of water and finding water sources to put out fires. Good news for all of you, we are way past those times. We're a lot more modernized. The bad news for you guys is it costs a heck of a lot more to provide that service nowadays than it did back then. So I'm going to go up here. Can everybody hear me, by the way, without a microphone?
Good.
I've never been told I'm a quiet soul, so I'm going to go ahead and put the microphone down. And if you can't hear me, just raise your hand and I'll go back to the microphone. That being said, again, the Bridgeville Fire Department was founded and organized in 1916. In 1924, the BVFD purchased its first modernized, motorized fire truck made by a manufacturer known as American La France. We were an American La France Fire Department, meaning all of our apparatus was American La France, up to about 2015. In 2015, we had actually ordered a new ladder truck through American La France. All of our other apparatus, with the exception of one engine, was American La France, and unfortunately for us, they went bankrupt during production, which led us to the Pierce ladder truck that you see around town today. Okay? In 1929, the department officially became chartered. In 1945, the BVFD purchased land, what we now know as the Borough Building at 425 Bower Hill Road. It was actually purchased by the volunteer firemen back then. They in turn donated it to the Bridgeville Borough to open up a fire station, police station, and municipal offices. Okay? In 1997, they moved, meaning us, the Bridgeville Fire Department, moved from 425 Bower Hill Road to our current station that we're here today. Allowing us, obviously, to build more than just a fire station, but build a social hall that could house community meetings, community events, fundraisers for the fire department. Many of you probably remember our bingo days, bingo every Monday, and this is a great revenue source for the fire department. Being in the fire department, being in the Bridgeville Fire Department, is pretty much a full-time job. You asked all the volunteers and things like that. Back in the days of the Bucket Brigade, it was literally just who had time, who was nearby, and just a willingness to help. The fire service has made many transformations over the years. Now, just to be a firefighter, you need 188 hours of training. Once you get that 188 hours of training, you are the new guy. You're fresh out of class and ready to fight your first fire. And I tell all of our men and women here at the fire department, and this is going to sound rather brash, but it's a stark reality in our business. Congratulations, you just learned enough to get yourself killed. Because what we do is inherently dangerous. Yes, we have the technology and the tools that are far greater than what they've ever been. Okay, but you still cannot eliminate the fact that we are going into a building that everyone else is running out of, right? So the look on their face when I say that to them is kind of shock, maybe even some fear, and leads me to the next thing I always tell them. The day that you're not afraid to go into a fire, don't go in. Because when you fear, you're hyper aware, right? So you're more vigilant to what's going on around you, conditions changing, they rapidly change. So you always want to stay alert, you always want to be watching over your partner's always watching over you. We do everything in teams here, a minimum team of 2. So in the event that there's a fire and we're going inside, whether it be with a hose line to actually suppress the fire or put the fire out, or it's for search and rescue activities for somebody that may be trapped, whether it be a human or an animal. Yes, we will actually go into a burning building and attempt to rescue your dog or your cat. I don't know about the snakes. If you have snakes, I'm going to apologize ahead of time. Not one of my guys on this department like snakes, which will lead me to a funny story of a fire that we had actually right on this side of the building a few years back. I'll get to that in a little bit. But we will go the extra mile for your animals and things just the same, okay? The Bridgeville Fire Department currently operates as an engine, a rescue, and a truck company. Fun fact, even way back in the 40s, Bridgeville operated as an engine, a rescue, and a truck company. Actually, the first truck and rescue company in the area. So you see our rescue truck, you see this big mammoth trucks on wheels. We used to be the rescue company for Collier Township, South Fayette Township, Upper St. Clair Township, parts of Scott Township. The transformation over the years, now everybody has a rescue truck, and almost everybody has a ladder truck. So we still respond to those areas for fires, not necessarily for the apparatus, but fires, they're labor intensive. An average residential house fire, a small 2-story residential house fire, to have enough manpower on scene to be able to do that job as safely as possible, the government says 35 firefighters. Turning that to a commercial fire, such as a business on the avenue or something like that, that doubles. And that is just on your first alarm assignment. So I mentioned a first alarm assignment. What exactly does that mean? So as the incident commander, when I arrive on scene, I already know the assets that I have deployed, the units that are coming, the manpower that's coming. When I pull up on scene, if I know that I'm going to stress that number and not be able to adequately suppress that fire, I will go to a greater alarm, which will double the existing assignment of that fire. So what is an assignment for a house fire? House fire is 4 fire engines, 2 ladder trucks, 2 rescue companies, and 3 chiefs. Now, you're probably sitting here thinking, wow, that's a lot of assets. And again, it is, but fires burn a lot faster nowadays, they burn a lot hotter nowadays, so they put a lot more stress on the firefighter. So back when I started, just 30 years ago, it has changed vastly. Like, we would go into a house fire, we'd be able to be in there 30, 40 minutes before we even had to worry about the structure being compromised. These new homes that they're building today, not necessarily here in Bridgeville, but Collier, South Fayette, Upper St. Clair, Mount Lebanon, these newer homes, 5 minutes, after 5 minutes of fire, direct fire impingement, parts of that home start to fail. Whether it be the roof, whether it be the floors, you know, a lot of you guys in this room probably, remember the days of big nails and stuff like that. Everything now is pressed together. So when it fails very quickly, sometimes without warning. So as the incident commander, that is something that I have to be vigilant about, right? I have to make sure that all of my folks on scene, and whether it be firefighters, EMS, police, or the general public, or the homeowner or business owner, or any variation thereof, I have to make sure that they're safe, right? And I have to be able to calculate in my mind with seconds of what I think that building is going to do. So how do we do that? So there's classes. One of the best classes that I ever took was called The Art of Reading Smoke. So that smoke, everybody here has seen a fire, whether it be a house fire or a campfire or something, everybody's seen a fire. That smoke is actually giving off information to a trained person, okay? The color of the smoke tells us one thing. How fast is the smoke coming out? Like, is it just kind of wafting into the air, or is it forcing a big cloud up into the air? That tells us a lot, actually. And that tells me that those conditions are changing rapidly if that smoke is forcing out. So that tells me that I need to get my guys into a defensive mode. Offensive, defensive. Offensive means we're going interior. We're going to go in and seek out the fire, put the fire out. Offensive means we're going to do those same things from the outside of the structure in a safer, more controlled manner. Okay? Now, defensive fires. Does that mean if we start defensive that we cannot go offensive? Absolutely not. We can tame the fire down or knock the bulk of the fire down and then go interior if the building is safe enough to do so. Okay? So all these things are going on. Like the first 10 minutes, if you've ever seen the fire department pull up on your street and it looks like absolute chaos, right? Well, it's actually organized chaos, to be honest with you. Funny little thing they say to chief officers all the time. The acronym for chief is, what is it, Jamie? I forget how it goes. Or chaos. Chief has arrived on scene. Why they say that, I don't know. It seems like we have the plan, right? We're kind of running operations, so that's probably why they say that about us. But as far as that first 5 minutes, I have to orchestrate listening to everything that's going on that scene, okay? What is the homeowner telling us? Is there people trapped? Is there things that I need to watch for dealing with the fire as far as potential collapse or a potential backdraft or things like that? All that's going on. At the same time, I have to organize the units coming in and get them deployed where I need them deployed to be able to effectively suppress the fire. So that first 5-10 minutes of being on scene is absolute chaos, but then you'll see it kind of mellows out and you see the fire start to damper down, the smoke to start to go from black smoke to a gray smoke to a white smoke to no smoke. That is obviously the signs that we're doing all the right things. When it goes from black to gray to white to none. That means we've done our job, okay? As far as a normal fire response too, in addition to that, we also have police there, we also have the medics there doing rehab and things. Because when our firefighters come out, what they just put their body through, that gear that they're wearing, the full gear, the air pack, adds about 82 pounds of weight, okay? They're carrying that around, they're going into a building that may be 12 to 1,500 degrees. Now, the good news is, obviously they're not standing up in those conditions, okay? Because they would not last but maybe a minute, and it would literally be fatal to them. So the lower you get in the fire, just like you learned in school, you learned it, you know, if there's smoke and fire, you get low, you crawl below the smoke into what? The heat, okay? Because heat rises, smoke rises. So they're crawling into that fire. It may only be 300 degrees. 300 degrees is hot. How many have opened the oven after preheating and that heat smack them in the face? Even with our gear on, it's the same way. It's pretty intense, okay? So the initial crews arrive on scene to the fire. After the fire is knocked down and stuff like that, and they're coming out, I have to send them to a rest and rehab. So it used to be like when I joined the fire service, you put an air pack on, you went in and you fought fire. When your air pack started to ring telling you were out of air, or almost out of air, you exited the structure, you chugged a bottle of water while they were changing the bottle out, and then you went right back in to go to work. What did we learn? We learned that we were killing firefighters. Why? How were we killing firefighters? We were putting so much stress on their bodies from the heat, the cold, the adrenaline, just all the different things that you feel, and we weren't giving them that time to rest. So now we actually have to come out, we actually have to open up, we have to get our vitals assessed. If our blood pressure is too high or our heart rate's too high, the medics have the power to render that firefighter out of service. So earlier on, I talked about the number of resources that are on a scene. You would be surprised how often that happens, even with someone that's in perfect shape, that they just overexert themselves, okay? So I know that, you know, when you see a fire and you see all these fire trucks from all these different communities, you're probably thinking, like most people do, that's overkill. I assure you, it is not. It is not, because we want to make sure that all of us come home at the end of the event, okay? More about some notable fires in Bridgeville. All of these were before my time, fortunately. But who remembers the Isley's fire at the intersection of Station and Washington? 15 fire companies back then, 15 fire companies. Now, what's the difference between back then and today? 15 fire companies back then, each fire company averaged about 80 to 90 firefighters. Now, obviously they weren't all there, right? But let's just say that each one showed up with 30 guys, which is probably the reality. That was over 300 firefighters it took to combat that fire, okay? I believe that was in March of 1961. Let me double check my notes on that. I was close. March of 1960. Almost a year later, another big fire in Bridgeville. And can anybody tell me what that fire was? No.
School, right?
Nope. I'll give you a hint.
Hotel.
Yep. Who said the hotel? It was the Norwood Party Center. Norwood Party Center.
Yes.
That fire
Yes.
took 22 fire departments to render under control. And you can actually see if you look in this photo, this was, and I'll go ahead and pass these around, this was our first ladder truck here in Bridgeville. Fun fact about that fire truck, when we were in the borough building, you used to have to pull the fire engine out, back the ladder truck in till it got in so far, then around the pole and park between the pillars. Then you had to back the fire engine in. So it wasn't like it is today. We just open up each bay and the fire truck pulls straight out. It took some Tetris to get the fire trucks out of the fire station at the borough building. So we're fortunate that we don't have to not only play Tetris to get our apparatus out, but we don't have to exit out onto Bower Hill Road with that traffic that you see now. Okay, we're fortunate we have a runway, as I call it, down to the end of the street with our sirens and stuff. They know we're coming. Okay, that particular fire was the last one for about 28 years that was of really big significance. Can anyone tell me the next fire that I'm referring to? I'll give you a hint.
Galaxy.
I don't have to give you a hint, he just said it. Galaxy Fire. That was in December 5th of 1989. What I can tell you about that day from what I've heard, and I've actually attempted to watch the VHS tapes that we have here of that fire, was it was 5 degrees. I actually know a fireman personally who told me this story. He was sitting on a fire hose spraying water into the building for about 20 minutes, and they tapped him out to get a break to go warm up. He was frozen to that hose, literally frozen to that hose. So that is other things that we have to combat: extreme heat, extreme cold, extreme wind, thunderstorms. We never know. The fires don't come at a perfect time. You know what I mean? So you never know what the elements that you're going to face when you're out there. I can tell you just last year. Everybody knows the cold snaps that we had last year when it was negative like 5, 10, 15 degrees for a week straight. During that week, the Bridgeville Fire Department responded to 6 structure fires. Of those 6 structure fires, 3 of them were fatals. So we'll kind of discuss why that is as well as we get further into the program. Now, the Bridgeville Fire Department has had a lot of support from this community all the years. But I want to take a second, I'd be remiss to not take a second, to discuss Our Ladies Auxiliary. How many in this room know of Our Ladies Auxiliary or know a Ladies Auxiliary firefighter, or auxiliary member? It's with great regret that I announced that they all retired. They actually ceased operations just officially this week. But I want to take a minute, if you all could, to give them a round of applause for all their support of this fire department and coming out and bringing soup and drinks on fire scenes and raising money to help the fire department buy apparatus or buy tools and stuff that they needed. We can't do what we do without the support of what they did for us and obviously the support of this community. Okay? Diane Schaefer, who's in attendance, has been the president of the Ladies Auxiliary for the last 20 years. I know Deb Colosimo has been on the auxiliary, Kathy Sharp. I know a lot of them. I don't know all of them over the years. From what Diane has told me, they actually were in operation for a while and they kind of ceased unofficially and then kind of started back up again. And was that 20 years ago when you started back up?
No, it was recorded that they first started in 1936 with 25 members. Then they lasted for I don't know how long, then about 40, then they disbanded. about 45 years ago, Faye Sharp was one of our firefighters, and his daughter-in-law, Kathy Sharp, restarted it over again with about 30 members. And through the times, we've had up to at least 50 different members from time to time. But through everybody getting older and sicker and life gets in the way, it's been decided that, it's time.
So their service is just as admirable as the service of this fire company. So, and I'm sure that you all agree with that. But we talked tonight about three of the big fires in Bridgeville. I'll be honest with you, through looking at photos here and looking at old fire reports as far back as I could find, those were the three biggest fires that I can remember. Do any of you remember any other big fires?
The school fire.
Washington School. I have no information on that fire. Do you know what year approximately that would have been?
50.
I think 58.
So sometime in the 50s. Okay.
What was bad about that was the building, everything was wood.
Sure.
Inside, and they re-soiled, they oiled the floors. That was they really had trouble with that fire.
I'm sure they did. So, that kind of leads me to another talking point as to what goes on in homes. One of the big things that we're actually seeing now is hoarding conditions.
Yes.
Okay, and so, what are concerns that we have? The weight of all the belongings already on that floor. Now we're adding water to a fire, thousands of gallons of water of weight onto that floor. We run the risk of a failure rather quickly. So that is something that we identify early on, and hopefully before there's an actual fire there. How do we do that? So the Bridgeville Fire Department not only runs fire calls, we run EMS calls as well. We do not have an ambulance. But a lot of us, myself included, are cross-trained fire and EMS. So my full-time job, I work on an ambulance. My volunteer job, I'm the fire chief here, okay? So we go on a medical call. That's our invitation into that home, right? So while we're there, I mean, granted, we're not creeping through all their floors and stuff like that, but we're able to get a good picture of what's going on in that home just by being maybe in the living room or in the bedroom. Then we've had to traverse the steps and we got to see more of that home. So when we get back, I, as the incident commander, we run a pre-planned software. I input that information. So in the event that there's a call in the future, it will auto-populate on the computer in the fire truck and let the guys know, hey, there's hoarding conditions, or hey, there's reptiles, or there's an angry dog, you know what I mean? Stair lifts. Stair lifts are actually an asset in a lot of things. For us, they are an obstacle.
What's stair lift?
What's that?
What is stair lift?
A stair lift. Have you seen the commercial where the man or woman sits on the left at the bottom of the steps, press a button, and it takes them up the steps? Those are the stair lifts. So what do? They take up part of that hallway, right? They take up part of that stairwell. So a lot of it, exactly. So especially if they're in it. If they're in it, their knees are almost all the way to that next wall. So that limits the ability for us to get up and down that steps, whether it be a medical call or a fire call. Okay? So as far as other things that we spot, as we all know, we've had a lot of flooding here in Bridgeville. I'm fortunate to say that our council and councils in the past and our mayor has worked diligently to solve those problems. And I'm going to knock on wood before I say anything further. We haven't had a problem since 2018, a significant problem since 2018. But we get into a lot of homes there, a lot on Baldwin Street, McLaughlin Run, over here off of Carroll, Brookfield, the areas that flood. So anytime that we're in a home, we're taking a mental picture. How that actually became a thing, in my fire department back home, we ran fire and ambulance together. And we had a particular patient that had cancer and he was dying. And he didn't want to die in a nursing home. And so his wife was taking care of him in the home. They called 911 at least 3 times a week because he He was very sick, and we'd have to take him to the hospital. Then there went for a period that we didn't have a call there. So we assumed, and we were correct in our assumption, that he had passed. But the next call that we got there was literally in the middle of the night for a structure fire within traffic. And that woman, his wife, was trapped in that fire, okay? Here's the good news. The only bit of good news, but the good news. We had been in that house so many times, we knew that floor plan inside and out. We knew where her bedroom was. We knew exactly where to go. We didn't have to go search. Obviously, we picked a starting point, and fortunate that she was in that starting point. We actually pulled her, not me, but our crews pulled her from that fire, and she lived for quite some time after. She wasn't burned. She did have some respiratory issues and some carbon monoxide poisoning from the smoke. But that taught me something right there early on in my career. Take a mental picture anytime you're in a house. You never know when you're going to have to be back there for a fire. So, what is it like to be in a fire? Well, I already told you, if you're down at the ground, it's 300 to 400 degrees. But in addition to that, I want everybody to cover their eyes right now. You can't see anything, right? So, that is the way it is in a fire. You can't see anything. It's 300 to 400 degrees, and it's loud. Now, you're probably wondering, why is it loud? The crackles of the fire, debris falling, the guys pulling hoses through someone's house, knocking over furniture or knickknacks and stuff like that. Not intentionally, obviously. They can't see any of that, right? So it's loud. So all those things are playing into that firefighter as well when they're inside. Okay? As far as the mental picture, I always try to get a layout of those bedrooms. And then when I also pull up on the outside, whether it be a fire alarm or a medical call, there's things that I'm looking for that tells me, hey, maybe somebody's in there, right? So what would some of those things be? Well, if I pull up and there's a car in the driveway and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, okay, chances are everybody's home, right? There's somebody home in there. So if I don't run into that homeowner or somebody screaming, hey, we're over here, I then assume that they are inside. Now, how do I know if they have kids? Probably have a swing set in the backyard, right? There's some toys in the front yard. Those are things that we look for. So when I pull up on that scene for a fire, the first thing that I do is I get out and I do what they call a 360. So I walk around all 4 sides of that building. What am I looking for? I'm looking for any evidence of occupancy. I'm looking to see if someone's hanging out a window. I'm looking to see the number of floors on the front side of the house versus the back side of the house. Why is that important? So February 14th, I apologize, I don't know the year, but how many remember the 3 city firefighters that were killed? Okay? Why they were killed is when they pulled up from the front side, from the street side of that house, it looked like a 1-story house. But in typical Pittsburgh fashion, and we have these in Bridgeville as well, it may be 1 story from the front because it's built up into a hill. It's built like an L, right? So the front side, which would be my right hand, the front side looks 1 story, but when you get around to the back side of the building, it may be 3 stories down to the ground. So that firefighter or that homeowner or person trapped in that fire, they're in the back side of that house, maybe trying to get out, and now instead of just jumping out a 1-story window, they're jumping a 3-story window. So that's one of the things that I'm looking for. I'm also looking at, where's the basement access? Okay? So that basement access, whether it's, is there steps to get down, meaning steps from the outside that you have to walk down to get to the basement? Or is there a ramp or steps that go up? If the steps go up, it's called a walkout basement or a walk-up basement. Walk-out is if they don't have any steps, they just walk out into the backyard. Walk-up means they had to walk up steps. Or if it's down steps, it's a walk down. That just orients my firefighters. So I'm going to tell them, like County 117 Chief, I'm on scene, I have a 2-story, confirmed 2-story from all 4 sides with a walkout basement on side Charlie. What is side Charlie? So Alpha is the front side of that house, or what we call the address side of the house, okay? The main entry point. And then it goes clockwise. Bravo is the left side, Charlie is the rear, Delta is the right side. And then the number of floors is Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, if it's a 3-story house. The basement is what they call a subdivision. So I'm going to say, 117 Chief on scene, I'm confirming I have 2 stories from the front, 2 stories from the rear with a walkout basement. I have smoke and fire showing from the Alpha Bravo corner on Division 2. Now my guys and gals responding in that fire truck already know what type of house they're responding to. They've already painted that picture in their mind as to what it's going to look like and where the fire is at. So when they get off the truck, I don't have to stand there and micromanage. I don't have to tell them, I need you to take that hose line to that front door, go up the steps. No, I'm the chief, they're the real workhorses, okay? I'm just like in a musical. I'm just the person who's going like this, you know what I mean? Orchestrating, for lack of a better term. But they know based on that picture that I've painted for them what they're walking into, okay? So some of the other lingo that we use, fully involved, room and content, that you may hear on the radio if you have a scanner. Fully involved, what does that mean? Fully involved structure fire means over 80% of that building is directly impinged by flame, okay? Meaning not smoke, you know, because you could have a very small fire and a whole heck of a lot of smoke. But when you're talking about the size of the fire, you're actually talking about the flames. So if I'm responding in and I'm not the first one on scene as the chief, and say the engine is the first one on scene, and the captain or lieutenant on the engine says, I've got a fully involved structure, I know that we're going defensive right away. And I'm going to announce that over the radio. So everybody coming in knows that defensively means we are not going into that building, okay? So what if someone's trapped? If someone's trapped, then we will make a calculated decision. And one of the worst decisions, and I pray I never have to do it, is give the order to not go, knowing that someone's inside. But the stark reality of it is, if that structure is fully involved, is there some livable space in there? Maybe. But am I going to kill firefighters trying to get to them? Okay? It's a decision, again, I hope I never have to make, but it's a stark reality that sometimes that decision may have to be made. Okay? Now, a room and content fire. Maybe you pull up and there's fire only coming from 1 or 2 windows. That tells me that that fire is confined to that room. We got time. We're going after it. We're going in. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to stretch at least 2 hose lines into that building. We're going to ladder all 4 sides of that building in case conditions change and that firefighter needs to make a quick exit. So those types of fires are bread and butter fires, okay? I say bread and butter because we're fortunate here in Bridgeville. We have an average response time in the evenings and on weekends of 6 minutes and 26 seconds. What does that mean? From the time the 911 dispatcher dispatches us for that fire, there is a fire truck in front of your house within 6 minutes and 26 seconds. Okay? Now, a lot of people think, and I probably should have led with this, and I apologize, so I'm going to kind of take a step back. A lot of people think, yeah, we have a volunteer fire department here in Bridgeville, but there's always someone at the firehouse, right? No, there's not, especially during the day, during the week. One of the realities of the fire service now is it's not like it was when we had all the mills and you had folks that worked steady daylight, steady afternoon, steady night term. So you knew you had this group around during the day because they were on afternoon, and they were around day and night, but not in the afternoon. This group was around overnight and morning, but they worked afternoon kind of thing. You know, we don't have that anymore. So we all work full-time jobs. We all have lives. We all have kids. We all have baseball, soccer, softball, whatever it be. And in addition to that, when someone calls 911 and this pager activates, then we do our best, obviously, to respond to those calls. But employers nowadays do not let their staff, the majority of them, do not let their staff leave for fire calls like they used to. It used to be back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even early 90s, there was a lot of firefighters that worked in town. So when the pager went off, or actually, I dated myself, the pager is after that. When the fire whistle went off, they knew that they had a fire call, they left work, okay? Employers don't let that happen anymore. The only good news is they can't let us leave, or don't have to let us leave, but they cannot hold it against us if we're late for work, They can't write us up, suspend us, dock us, anything. They are fully responsible, not to pay us. They don't have to pay us for that missed time, but if we have sick time or vacation time or something like that, they have to allow us the opportunity to use it. Doesn't mean that we're going to use it, you know what I mean? And they can't force us to use it either. But if we don't use it, obviously we don't get paid, okay? But there's not always someone here at the fire department, and the only full-time career fire departments around us that do have staff around the clock, City of Pittsburgh, Dormont has 1 guy, Mount Lebanon has 4, Peters Township and North Strabane Township. But you are starting to see more and more fire companies during the day having on staff, because we don't have that allotment of personnel that are available during the day. So that same fire call that may be a 1-alarm fire on the afternoon or overnight or on weekends may be a 3-alarm fire during the day, during the week, just to get the same number of people that I would get from a 1-alarm fire in the evening or on the weekend, okay? Some other things that we do in the fire service, snowstorms. Unfortunately, we did have one this year, but fortunately, it was nothing like Snowmageddon. During Snowmageddon, we were here for almost 48 hours. Running calls 48 hours straight. We ran over 200 calls in that weekend. So they were talking about this big snowstorm this year. I was thinking, okay, we're going to have to staff the station, meaning we're going to have crews here around the clock. So I sent it out to my people. What was it, 18 of us? 18 of us stood by for like 30 hours straight. We did 1 call. I'm happy about it. They may not have been happy about it, but I'm happy about it. You know what I mean? Because they were probably thinking, okay, it was overkill. We only ran 1 call. You know, it was kind of a waste of our time. The differences was, if you remember that Snowmageddon of 2010, we were only supposed to get 2 to 4 inches of snow. Does everyone remember that? Mm-hmm. And the snowstorm had other ideas, and we got 24 or 26 inches of snow. But it happened on a Friday during the evening commute with everybody trying to get home, where this storm happened, I believe it was Saturday morning, in the wee hours of Saturday morning. So people knew about it in advance, and they stayed home, and they allowed the road crews to go out and do a remarkable job like they do every snowstorm, keeping our roads safe here in Bridgeville. I think we all can agree in this room that Bridgeville roads are always the best of any community around us. Can we agree on that? They do an amazing job. And that really helps us as well, because we have to get our apparatus to wherever we have to go. Now, we are fortunate here. We do have a pickup truck with a plow on it, so in the event that the road crews are tied up and can't get in front of us to go to a call, we do have those capabilities to do that ourselves, okay? But we pre-plan, as I call it. So we pre-plan, hey, look, we run the risk of a lot of calls and increased call volume. We're going to staff the station. But we don't only do that during snowstorms. We do that during thunderstorms. Who remembers that that thunderstorm last April that literally sounded like a tornado coming through Bridgeville? There was actually 4 of us. We knew the storm was coming. There was 4 of us that were here. We were in the garage, and that storm come in, and I told the guys, open the garage door. I just had a feeling we were going to lose power. And yes, we can put the garage doors up manually, but those are really heavy garage doors, okay? And I'm not getting any of them, all right? But we put the garage doors up, and then literally we could hear it. I mean, the roof literally was moving. I witnessed it with my own eyes. I was this close to telling everyone to get underneath the fire trucks, because I literally thought that we had a tornado over top of us. We had a lot of debris that was blowing off of houses, roofs blowing off of houses, off of May Avenue. We actually had a ginormous 4.5-foot in diameter tree come through the second floor all the way to the first floor of a home up on May Avenue. Literally split the home in half. While the folks were sitting in the living room. And so we get dispatched like an hour and a half into the storm response. We get dispatched to go up there. And does anybody know those folks, by the way, on May Avenue? All right, before I go any further, no disrespect to them by any means. But literally they said, we didn't want to call because we knew you guys were busy. Truth be told, they were the first call that we should have responded to. They were literally sitting in their living room when we got there an hour and a half later into the storm. The house literally was falling in, and they didn't want to bother us. You know, please don't be that person. If something significant happens, never be afraid to call 911. We are a free service. We respond 24/7, 365. I have been on calls on holidays just like everyone else here in the department. I remember we do a Christmas Eve party every year at my house. I remember it was 2 or 3 years ago, a guy's water line broke in his house, and he called, and he was completely astonished that 14 of us showed up to his house in 4 minutes on Christmas Eve. We just all happened to be close by, all right? But yeah, we're going to come out. There was no charge to that homeowner for that. That is what we do as fire service, okay? We often get calls for plumbing issues, electrical issues, smells and bells, as we call them. You know, I got this smell. I don't know if it smells like natural gas or sewer gas or whatever. Call us, okay? We're going to come out, and we're going to have these special meters that's going to tell us exactly what's going on, and we're going to mitigate that problem at no cost to you, okay? Before we get into some of the fire prevention stuff, I want to continue along and tell you a little bit of some other groups that we have within the fire department. Unfortunately, this one I'm very limited on the knowledge about. And if anybody has any information about them, please feel free to share. But we used to have a drum and bugle corps here. Does anybody remember that? Excellent. You remember that? Can you guys tell me anything about it? Because I looked through boxes and boxes. We had the drum upstairs. It's definitely seen better days. Okay? But the layer of dust on there is impressive. I can tell you there isn't one person in this department that can play that drum. It was one of the things that a lot of fire departments used to do. I actually just came back from a conference with 3 of my fellow firefighters from here in Indianapolis last week. And one of the things that they have is all the different fire departments, not all of them, but a lot of the different fire departments have folks that play the bagpipes and play the drums and stuff like that. And we were at this event. There was probably under a tent. This tent was ginormous. There was probably 1,000 people in there. So you imagine, even if every one of the 1,000 people were talking softly, it was pretty loud in there, right? Well, they come in playing the drums and the bagpipes. You could have heard a pin drop. Like everybody stopped, and it just, every time I hear the bagpipes, it sends a chill down my spine. Because unfortunately that is something that they play in a military funeral, firefighter funeral, police funeral, or EMS funeral. But it's just something that it really is impressive to see. I encourage you, if you want to see what I'm talking about, it's on YouTube. Just type in FDIC bagpipes, and you'll see. They'll walk through the convention center over in Indy, like I said, and there's literally 30,000 people in there. And again, you can hear, when they come in, you can hear a pin drop in that room other than the music. It's very impressive. So we talked about the Ladies Auxiliary, and we talked about the the drummers. Some other special things that we do here in the Bridgeville Fire Department, in addition to the fire and EMS response, we do have folks that are in hazardous material response. Deputy Chief Hurst behind me is one of those. He's on the county team. So not only do we respond to calls in Bridgeville, but we have a unit over there, a medical unit, that actually responds to 11 counties in western Pennsylvania. It's a mass casualty unit that is operated by the Bridgeville Fire Department, EMS side of the Bridgeville Fire Department. So when a mass casualty incident is declared, that unit is activated, and we can go up to 11 counties. So it's full of medical equipment, backboards, oxygen supplies, medications, different things like that, things that we may need in a large scale event. I'm thankful to say that since it's been here, it was actually in the shop the day of the Clareton Works blast, or else it had been there for that. But we have not had to respond that unit anyway. So we're not only a fire department, a fire response. We're multifaceted here at Bridgeville. We do that with 25 responding members. Again, over half of those responding members are dual certified fire and EMS. And then we have 5 associate members. An associate member says, hey, I'll come down, I'll help with your fundraising. I'll do anything besides go on a fire. I don't want to go into a fire, I don't want to be on a fire call, but I'll help you any other way that I can. We encourage folks to do that, because if I have someone in the community that's, well, fortunately this role is now covered. We actually have, our treasurer is a CPA. What better person to be a treasurer, right? She does our books, she does it for a living, you know what I mean? So we don't have to tie up a firefighter to handle that aspect of the building. Diane was our ladies auxiliary. She's also our fire police, which I'll go over in a second what fire police is. But she is our secretary. She does a damn good job, pardon my French, of keeping me straight, okay? Making sure that all the mail that I need is put right in front of my face, because if it's not right in front of my face, I'm not gonna see it. And she does a very good job of reminding me where she put things. And moreover, she supplies me with 1 pound bag, or 5 pound bags of Swedish fish about once a month. And she's the reason I'm a diabetic. No, but no, she really takes care of it. She's kind of like the station mom, okay? So she does an amazing job for us. But our other roles, our president, our vice president, those are all filled by firefighters. So if you have an interest to serve, and you say, you know what, I want nothing to do with emergency response, but I got some time, please reach out. You got some time, we got some work for you, okay? So at this point, we're going to kind of shift in. We talked about the history of the fire department, and we talked about some big fires in Bridgeville. Now let's talk about why we don't have a lot of fires in Bridgeville, which is a good thing. We have a very aggressive, and we've had this, I've been a member of this department for 17 years, and it has been this way for all 17 years that I've been here. We have an aggressive fire prevention program here. So we will go out to community events. You see us in the community all the time, right? We will go out and spread our word, spread our gospel of how to prevent fires from even happening in your home or in your business, okay? If you don't have a smoke detector, we will come and give you a smoke detector. But not only do we give it to you, we're going to come and hang it up as well, at no charge. You don't pay for the smoke detector, you don't pay for us to hang it, okay? We had a situation last year, it was around this time last year, we got a call here at the fire station, and I happened to be in the office, and a lady says, you know, by the way, it sounded like a robot talking to me. I almost hung up. I thought it was a false call. I'm glad I didn't. It was actually a woman who was deaf, and she was typing into the TTY system, and it was converting it to Word. But anyway, she had a smell of something burning in her house. So obviously we dispatched it out as a possible house fire. We responded. I get over there. There's nothing showing, meaning there was no smoke, no fire. Everybody was out of the house. All was good. There was a faint smell in there. I wouldn't have said that it was the smell of something burning, but hey, I smell something different than you may, or you may, right? But one thing I noticed, there was not one smoke detector in that house. And I know that they have smoke detectors with lights on them, right? So I spoke to the lady, and I was obviously writing down, because she was deaf and couldn't hear. I was writing down, asking her about the smoke detectors, and she said, they can't afford them. I don't want to ever hear that, okay? There is always a fire department near you that will make sure that you get what you need to stay safe. So what we did as an organization, we reached out to the Red Cross. The Red Cross went in and upfitted their home with bed shakers. So if they're sleeping, obviously they're not going to see the strobe lights, right? There's these pads that go underneath of the pillow that runs to a device that communicates with the smoke detector. And literally, it will shake and wake them up. We were able to outfit all 3 kids' bedrooms and both adult bedrooms. And we were able to outfit every floor of that home with hearing impaired smoke detectors at no cost to the resident. Thank you. That is one of the things that we are passionate about. We want to make sure that you never have a fire. So we will go out and we will come to your house and do a home safety inspection, give you some advice on what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing. Truth be told, most fires are accidental, and with all due respect, a lot of times we look back and we think, obviously we're firefighters, so you know, we're going to look at it like, what were they thinking? Well, we're firefighters, right? A lay person may not have realized the risk that they undertook by doing something, you know? Candles. Everybody loves candles, right? Okay, almost everybody loves candles. Loves the smell of candles and stuff like that. Then it goes off in the chair or something like that, where they have papers too close by. Or grills. How many people have a grill on their front porch? A lot of people, right? Maybe not you guys. It looks good. I haven't seen any hands up. But then, in addition to having a grill on the front porch, they have vinyl siding, and they have the grill 2 feet away from the vinyl siding. Well, can anybody in this room tell me at what point, what temperature that vinyl siding will catch fire? It's about 410 degrees. So, how you cook a burger or you cook a steak, what's your grill temperature? 600 degrees. So, they lift that lid, you know what I mean? It may not even be touching the vinyl siding, but it's close enough. Next thing you know, it starts to melt. Well, we're hoping that they're standing at the grill, right? They lifted the grill, they're vinyl siding, and once that starts to go, it goes quick, okay? And so we encourage you to think about your heat sources, your grills and stuff like that, bonfires, which we'll get into here in a second. But keep your grill 3 feet away on all 4 sides of that grill from anything, be it a vinyl siding, be it a rail, a handrail going around, patio furniture, or anything like that. Obviously, don't grill with a ceiling right over your head. You know, you would think common sense tells you that, right? You'd be surprised how many fires that we've responded to over the years to where they were cooking on the grill, underneath of an awning or something like that. And you almost want to say to them, would you have taken that grill in the middle of your kitchen and grilled out? No, you do it outside, right? You do it outside means outside, fully outside, okay? Now, bonfires. How many have a fire pit in their backyard? If you have a fire permit, Bridgeville Borough Ordinance states that it must be 10 feet away from any overhead obstruction, any fixed building, so that means, or any trees or anything like that. So pretty much, middle of your yard, 10 feet away from anything around it. You can only burn what falls from a tree. So does that mean you can burn wood? Okay, a lot of people will have pressure treated lumber and things like that, or stuff that they maybe were doing a home improvement project and had it left over in their house, so they take it outside and burn it. You are actually illegal and can be cited for that. The good news is we give you a warning the first time, okay? But what you can legally burn in Bridgeville and in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for that matter, within city limits, is literally, it was a windy night last night, you got some tree limbs in your yard, you can burn those. That's it, okay? But if you're gonna burn them, in addition to not having anything 10 feet around, you have to have a continuous water source, meaning a garden hose that can reach the middle of that fire, the seat of that fire. Okay, so if your house is 12 feet away and you have an 8-foot hose, guess what? You're illegal. Okay? Because you just don't have enough hose to get all the way to the fire. I'm not talking the stream. Yeah, the water might reach it, but you got to be able to get that hose to that fire to be within the law, the parameters of the law. Okay? So we talked about grills. We talked about fire pits. We're coming into, before you know it, it'll be the 4th of July, right? Everybody likes to launch fireworks and things like that. Fireworks cause fires every single year. Maybe not here in Bridgeville, fortunately. But every single year on the 4th of July, someone loses a business or a home or a hand to fireworks. So I encourage you, obviously, not to play with fireworks, to let the professionals do that, to go to the professional shows and things like that. But if you were going to operate them in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, any firework that you buy in the Commonwealth is what is legal. if you buy anything out of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, it is illegal to bring into the Commonwealth and let off here. Okay? So the little, you see over by Home Depot and sometimes at Rite Aid or CVS, whatever it's about to be, you'll see the tent fireworks and stuff like that. Those are smoke bombs. They're nothing that explodes. They're nothing that goes up into the air. They're pretty much just lights and smoke. Could there still be a hazard there? Yes, anything can be hazardous in the wrong hands. Okay, but just know that 4th of July, if you're buying the fireworks here in the state from one of those tent firework places, those are operating legally. Okay, not to say that they might not have some illegal stuff in there. I'm sure that happens as well. But always, if you're gonna have fireworks, always be. I would double that 10 feet from the bonfire. I'd make it 20 feet away from anything. Okay, and even though it's a smoke bomb or something like that, just always err on the side of caution. Okay. Let me get over here and kind of go through some slides. So, I went too fast. So this was our first rescue here in Bridgeville. This was what they call a Dodge Power Wagon. You could walk to the call faster than that, from what the guys used to tell us, because they had so much equipment on that back end. It doesn't look like in that photo, but talking to some of the people that were around in that, they said the wheels in the front barely touched the ground. So it kind of rode like this, you know, kind of like a plane taking off, right? But a lot of the tools that are on that truck now, or that were on that truck, are on our rescue truck now. This is an American LaFrance engine. The coolest thing I remember about these engines from when I was a kid, you didn't need to hear the siren to know that was a fire truck coming. That Detroit diesel motor, just this real deep noise, you knew it was a fire truck. That was a 1,500 gallon minute pumper. That served this fire department for 18 years as a frontline apparatus, and for another 4 years after that before it was retired. We used to run 2 engine companies, 1 truck company, meaning a ladder truck, 1 heavy rescue. Now we're 1 across the board, 1 engine, 1 rescue, and 1 truck. This was one of the first, actually the next one was, I believe, the first fire truck in Bridgeville. This, I know it's really hard to see, but these trucks, they used to hang the fire helmets in the jackets on the fire truck. So whoever was closest to the fire station, they went and got the fire truck. Everybody else went to the scene, and then when the fire truck got there, they would go on the jacket, the rubber boots, and the helmet, and then go to work. Okay? This was one of Bridgeville's first fire trucks. I want to say it's the first, but I don't want to commit to that. This was a Herons fire engine. This company has not even been in business in 65 years, so that's why I think this was one of the first. Okay. Again, you can see the fire helmets hanging off of the fire truck and stuff, and the fireman riding tailboard. What does riding tailboard mean? How many remember the days of seeing a fire truck with 2 or 3 firefighters hanging off the back? With good reason, which I only got to do it 1 time, ride tailboard on a fire truck, and then, which we weren't allowed to do it then, but we did. It was during the flood of 2004. But they actually stopped that in the 90s. They stopped firemen from riding tailboards. It is with deep regret that I let you guys know that Bridgeville was one of those statistics. We did have a firefighter fall off the back of the truck, and he was killed in the line of duty right on Railroad Street. They were coming back from a fire. I don't even know if it was a real fire. They weren't driving fast. They made the turn from Station Street onto Railroad. He fell off the back, struck his head, and subsequently died. That was what we call a line of duty death. We had another line of duty death. We've had 2 here. We had a gentleman that was actually not responding on a call at that point because the call hadn't happened. But he was the treasurer. Chuck was the treasurer, right? Come in the man door over on this side of the building. walked in, went into sudden cardiac arrest. Shortly thereafter, very shortly thereafter, it just so happened we had a fire call. And our previous chief, Bill Chilio, was the first to the station and found Chuck. Chuck was still warm, they tried to resuscitate him, and unfortunately he passed. But because he was here doing fire department business, that was still considered a line of duty death, okay? So we have had 2 line of duty deaths, and I pray that everything holy that we never have one again, okay? But that is why we do not ride firefighters on the back. Actually, when we got away from that, we used to get the ride in open back cabs. So we were seated and belted, but only part of the roof would cover our heads. Now we have to be fully encapsulated, just like in a passenger vehicle. So they, for good reason, took away a lot of the fun, the firemen say. Being able to ride in an open fire truck around the tailboard. I can tell you, from riding in the open back, it was fun spring, summer, and fall, but it sure as heck wasn't fun the winter time. Especially coming back from a fire when you're soaking wet. That was not fun at all. Another one of our fire engines through the years, this was back in the 80s. This fire engine here was the main engine, that first engine to the Galaxy fire. This next one here, pay special attention to the box on this fire truck. This is what replaced that power wagon that drove down the road like this. This particular box that you see here, when they retired the chassis of this fire truck, they remanufactured this one and put it on a new chassis on our current rescue truck. This box was from 1983, is still on our rescue truck today. And that rescue truck will actually be taken out of service in September of this year when we take delivery of our new rescue truck. Okay? But that truck, same thing. It did go down the road like this, but it could not get out of its own way. It was slow. So I talk about the open back cab. If you see here, you see it's got a side and it's got a roof over top of it, but it's open straight through. So we used to, actually the last fire that I was on this fire, or on that fire engine, was the Bridgeville Towers fire. But the Bridgeville Fire's fatal fire. We were actually, I was sitting right here. It was a bingo night, imagine that. I was calling bingo numbers. And we had a gentleman, anybody in the room know Bill Mills? Okay. Bill used to stand at that corner of the bar, and the minute we would get a call, he would come up and start calling numbers. Bridgeville Towers, I would say a fair number of the folks that were in this room that night playing bingo lived in Bridgeville Towers. They literally booed me as I'm going from there out that door to go fight a fire in their building. Booed me. I mean, and let me tell you something, Diane can attest to this. When you come in every Monday, the same people were seated in the same seats. And God forbid if you were an outsider that come into this bingo and sat in one of their seats. Because literally right back there, I'll never forget it, you probably know what I'm talking about, I'm not gonna say names. I watched a woman, she had to be in her 90s, pull up her cane and she was going to whack somebody for sitting in her seat. If I didn't see it myself, I wouldn't have believed it. But no, they actually booed not only me, but they booed us running out of that building. And ironically enough, there was 2 of us that pulled a woman out of that fire. Unfortunately, she did perish the next day. But that fire truck was awesome. And like I said, spring, summer, fall. I remember coming back from, I think it wasn't the Red Onion, it was big fire in Carnegie. It was in Irishtown in Carnegie. So come down out of Glendale, as soon as you cross the bridge, make that first left. It was an apartment building back there. We had fought that fire, I guarantee we were there for 9 hours. And finally, when we were coming home, we were soaking wet. It was freezing. And Jeff Lakes thought it would be funny, one of our firefighters, great guy, by the way, not that night, because he thought it'd be funny to get on the interstate and get back 60 miles an hour. We were like ice cubes coming back because we were soaking wet and it was so darn cold. So when I said something to him, he was like, "But I was warm up here." And that is Jeff Lakes, if you know Jeff Lakes. But that was one of my favorite fire trucks here in Bridgeville, was that K&E right there. So, the ladder truck, you guys, if you look at the picture, you see the Norwood Party Center. That ladder truck fought that fire. That ladder truck also fought the Galaxy fire. And I don't believe that it fought ISIS. I want to say its first fire was actually the Galaxy fire. Mind you, this is just what I've heard through the years. Don't hold me to that. That's just what I was told. All these pictures that you were seeing, we actually have in our club room. Now, showing you the fire apparatus, and we talked about some fire safety stuff, and I do want to go back and hit on some things. How many people in this room sleep with their bedroom doors closed? Anyone? So, 3 folks. Well, any of us firefighters will answer that as well. You 3 folks literally have 10 times the chance of surviving a house fire than everyone else in this room who didn't raise their hand. And I'm going to show you why. So, even if it's a hollow core door, meaning a cheap $35 Home Depot door that looks like wood that you could punch through, that will keep that fire at bay for about 10 minutes. You get a solid wood door, it could be as long as 30 minutes before that fire or smoke will penetrate that. So, go ahead, Jake. If you look, this was 1,000 degrees, and I asked if you all could come forward. This is a very powerful picture I want you guys to see. So I will have this up at the end. But if you look, this fire was 1,000 degrees outside of this building, or outside of this room. All of this is burnt to smithereens, smoke charred, alligated, the wood's alligated, stuff like that. The person was in this room with the door closed. Look, there's no smoke demarcation line, no soot, no nothing. This person walked out, well, went out the window, but survived this fire with nothing in the way of an injury, just by sleeping with their bedroom door shut. Here's another picture here. You see the outside of the door, you look at the paint, it's all peeled, the wood's alligated, the wood is this is with the door open, the bed and everything is all burned away. But in this particular room, you see the smoke and soot on the outside of the door, but when the door was open, there's no smoke or anything in that room. So, that will keep the heat, that will keep the fire, that will keep the smoke out of your room. Yes, you may get some smoke under the door. So if you're in a house fire, your door is shut, your smoke detector wakes you up, you see smoke coming in around the door, what can you do?
A blanket.
You're in bed, right? What are you going to bunch of right close to you?
Blankets.
Bed sheets, right? Blankets. Literally pull them off, put them up, literally up against the bottom of that door. That'll slow that smoke down. It'll filter that smoke somewhat, okay? Do not ever, 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 if you see smoke come from a door, open that door, okay? In addition to that, if you go to touch the door and the handle's hot, do not open that door. Now, one of the things that people do when a house catches fire, they run out of their house and they leave the front door open, right? That is one of the worst things that you can do, because fire literally needs heat, oxygen, and fuel. You eliminate any of those things, the fire goes out, right? So, how can you eliminate the oxygen in a fire? Well, a fire can do that itself. As it's burning everything up and stuff like that, it's consuming that oxygen. Once it's out of oxygen, the fire will literally snuff itself out. Have you ever heard that expression? The fire snuffed itself out. So, if you leave that door open, what is it never going to run out of? Oxygen. Because there's an endless supply of fresh oxygen out of that door. Now, we have an absolute amazing police department here in Bridgeville. We are fortunate that they do not do this, and I'm saying this not just because it's Bridgeville. We've actually, one of the things that we thought was important years ago, and I'll tell you the fire was Bridgeville Towers fire, is the cops not opening doors. So our cops listen, but we go to fires outside of Bridgeville all the time. Actually, that's where the majority of our fires are. And we see that the police go up and they kick in the door to go in and see if someone's in there. I get it. I get their intentions are pure and stuff like that. But by them kicking that door open, they actually just put that person in much more risk. So you actually see a coordinated fire attack with the fire department is before we open doors, we have a charged hose line right there at that door. So we can start putting water, or as we say, the wet stuff on the red stuff. We're gonna put water on and start darkening that fire down as it's getting fresh oxygen, so it doesn't rapidly support combustion and rapidly grow that fire. But that is a perfect illustration right there of just one little simple step that you can take. We teach this literally. Yesterday we taught fire prevention at Bethany to kindergartners and first graders. They don't absorb much, but they absorb more than what you think. We taught them this. Now, obviously, they don't understand what they're looking at in this picture, but we explained to them why they keep their bedroom door shut and stuff. And that will literally save lives. It has saved lives. Also, yeah, there's an actually, we're going to play that video. This is actually going to talk more about that, sleeping with your bedroom door shut, because it's very important that you guys hear this message. So look at this. Look at this room. Everything's completely burned away, right?
Moving to the hallway, to the bathroom. But, check this out.
Literally, every single thing in this house is burned away. There is no...
This is what we stress, keeping your doors closed.
There is literally no smoke or fire damage in the one room that had that door
You can't get
shut.
much cleaner than that. What about that, my door? This little girl's room, yeah, it burned through the door a little bit, but the switch was still clean. This little girl's bedroom was saved because they simply had closed the door.
So not only does it save lives, but you've seen in that photo, everything in her room looked perfectly normal, right? Her posters on the wall were there and stuff like that. How many people have a study or a library or a room that they keep family heirlooms? A lot of people, right? Keeping that door shut will conserve that stuff and allow us the opportunity to bring that out to you after the fire, so long as the fire wasn't obviously in that room. So it's important to, if you're not in a room, pull the door shut. You'd be surprised what that will do, and hopefully less surprised now that you've seen that video. Okay? As far as other things that you can do to minimize the risk of fires in your home and stuff like that, we talked about hoarding conditions and stuff. So, look, I'm guilty of it. There's things that I have no reason why I've kept things, but I've kept them. Just because I thought, you know what, I don't want to throw them away. But when it gets to the point that it's overtaking your home, you're just putting yourself at risk, okay? But not only are you putting yourself at risk, you're putting us as responders at risk. So just kind of keep that in mind, okay? Smoke detectors. I said it before, I'm going to say it again. If you don't have a smoke detector, I'll have business cards to hand out to you guys afterward. If you don't have a smoke detector, feel free to reach out to me. We will have a smoke detector in your house this week. No charge to you. The good news is we don't screw them in or anything like that. We come in, we put double-sided tape on the back of the smoke detector, slap it up on the wall, and they stay. I can't tell you the last time I mounted a smoke detector in my own home. I use double-sided tape for them every time. Okay? Now, all your smoke detectors now come with a battery, a 10-year battery. Does that mean you don't have to check it for 7 years? No. Yeah, a lot of them talk to you, and we're going to get into that here in a second. But no, you should still check them how many times a year? Twice. When do we check them?
Time change.
Time change. Exactly. So, do not take into consideration that 10-year battery is still good, because what you're not taking into consideration was when was that manufactured, how long has it sat on the shelf at Home Depot. It's not 10 years from the day you bought it, it's 10 years from the day that battery was manufactured. And you don't know when that was. So check them twice a year. Now this gentleman had said his smoke detector talks to him. How many have a smoke detector that talks to them? A lot of people, right? How many have a carbon monoxide detector that talks to you? Let me give you some strong advice. Don't listen. If the carbon monoxide detector goes off, you get out of your house, get everybody out of your house, you call us, okay? They're great in theory, okay? But we have found through studies, through UL laboratories and things like that, that research those types of events and the outcomes of those types of events, that maybe the parts per million on that CO said 30, but the reality of it was 90, okay? You can't guarantee that sensor is absorbing it correctly, okay? So it could be 90, or it could be 0 even though it's saying 30. Let us come out. Again, no charge, day or night, 365. We're gonna come to your house. We are not gonna use our sirens and stuff at 3 o'clock in the morning and make sure that all your neighbors are out there seeing what's going on. And all my guys will tell you, anytime someone asks, hey, what's going on over at Sally's house? Shark attack. Did you hear what he said? I tell them shark attack. Don't ask us what's going on, we can't tell you. You know what I mean? So I always say something funny. I've only actually met with one person that did not appreciate that comment. Everybody else laughs. But the reality of it is, if that was your emergency, do you want everybody to know? No. But moreover, we can't discuss it. So, but the smoke detectors, the carbon monoxide detectors, changing the batteries, or checking the batteries twice a year, changing them when they need to be changed. Some of the smoke detectors are hardwired in your homes. That's great, but guess what else? Guess what else they still have? Battery backup. Because if you don't have power, guess what you wouldn't have without a battery backup? Smoke detector, right? So call us if that smoke detector goes off for carbon monoxide. Call us. We're going to come. We're going to guarantee you that house has been thoroughly checked. We're going to check all your gas appliances. Yes, if you call us in the middle of June and you tell us that my carbon monoxide detector is going off, and we get there, we're going to turn your heat up to 80, just for a few minutes, because we need it to kick on to see, is that causing a CO condition? We're going to check your stove, your hot water tank, your dryer, okay? Now, you're probably thinking, wait a minute, why did he just say in June you're going to turn my heater on? Because that might not be the source of that alarm today, but there might be a problem that we identified purely on accident because something was wrong with another appliance or the detector was faulty. So we're going to check your heater, even though it may be 90 degrees outside. We're going to kick it on and we're going to confirm that you have no problem with any of your gas appliances. Okay? Does anybody have any questions so far?
As far as burning things, like in a fire pit,
Sure.
can we burn leaves then in the fall since
No.
they come from the tree?
You can't burn it. Here's the problem. Here's the problem with that. Everybody here has seen leaves burn. What do? Not only that, you'll see them going up in the air and floating away. In the fall, when leaves are falling, everything's dry. So you're running a risk of embers and particulates and stuff that are hot going to a neighbor's yard, or they could blow. You'd be surprised how far they can blow away. I mean, look at the wildfires in California and things like that. You know, it'll jump freeways. You're talking freeways in California, they're probably 80, 90 feet wide. You know what I mean? And those embers are blown. Yes, that's a much higher significance because wind's involved. Fun fact, actually, you're probably going to think I'm not going to tell you this, but if you think I'm wrong, Google it. Fires can create their own weather patterns. Fires can create their own weather patterns. They do in California every wildfire season. Okay? Has anybody heard of a fire NATO? A fire NATO is a tornado of fire. Literally. Again, you know, everybody's got access to internet, being a smartphone, computer. Look at it. They literally can create their own weather patterns. They can literally form fire NATOs. It is crazy what it can do. You think about it, fire is living and breathing just like we are. Because what did I say that it needed to live? Oxygen, heat, and fuel. So it's breathing, right? We're breathing, right? There you go. Any other questions?
I got one.
Sure.
Two-story house, smoke detector, carbon monoxide detector at the bottom of the basement steps to go up to the first floor. A smoke detector in the hall right before you go up to the second floor. A smoke detector, carbon monoxide up in the hall on the second floor.
Yes.
The one middle one in the middle of the night starts yelling at me.
Sure.
The other two are nothing.
So they're not communicating?
The other two are silent, but the one's going off, telling me I got carbon monoxide, I guess. Why aren't the other, does that mean?
They're supposed to.
I
So
think you implied sometimes they're faulty. Is that what you said earlier?
they can be faulty,
Yeah.
but when are they faulty? When we prove that they're faulty.
I should have called someone when I
Absolutely.
happened.
Absolutely.
Because
Because,
in the morning.
listen, honest to goodness, whether it's 2 o'clock in
What
the
a
morning,
spirit you, I'm in Scott Township.
call me 2 and get it 3 then. On a serious note, carbon monoxide is odorless and tasteless. It is known as the silent killer. You will never know there's a problem until it's too late. As somebody who's not trained. If someone's trained and knows what to look for, one of the first things that you're going to experience if you have a carbon monoxide condition in your home is a headache. Then flushed cheeks, rosy cheeks. Then lightheaded dizziness. Then vomiting and diarrhea. And then it just snowballs down. I think you know how far down I'm talking. It would literally to the point. So, you get a headache. You know what, I get a headache all the time. But, if you get a headache that's not letting up, even take an Advil or something like that, you know what I mean? It's worthy of calling us. You know what I mean? Again, why wouldn't you call us? It's a free service, right? A free service, whether it's 2 o'clock in the morning, whether it's Christmas Eve, whether it's Thanksgiving Day. You know what I mean? We're going to come out and we're going to ensure that it's not a problem. Because, again, we know what to look for symptom-wise. But when you're starting off with a headache, okay, if you go outside and the headache improves almost instantly, that's almost a telltale sign that you have a carbon monoxide condition. But what are some other things that you can look for, a trained eye that you can look for? You know what, I turn my oven on, and now I just don't feel right. Look at the flame in the oven. What color is the flame normally? Blue. If it's got a lot of yellow into it, that's a problem, okay? Or if it's snuffed itself out, that's even a bigger problem, okay? So, again, I can't preach it anymore. Call. All right? This gentleman brought up a good point. Having smoke detectors on multiple floors. One of the things technology has afforded us was the opportunity to have those smoke detectors talk to one another. Because it's great if you have a 3-story house and you have a small fire that broke out in your basement and your smoke detector right away went off and it's going off and you're on that 3rd floor, sound asleep. Are you going to hear it? No. But now those smoke detectors are all linked. So when one goes off, they all go off. And he said his on 2 floors do, but the one in the middle doesn't. So that is worth replacing.
The middle one's the one that gave me a signal I had carbon monoxide. The other two were quiet.
Oh, okay.
The middle.
So I said back.
Basement was no problem. Second floor, no problem. But the one at the bottom of the steps going up, right where I sleep, it was yelling at me. 2 o'clock in the morning. And I didn't call East Carolina Fire Department. But I should.
Listen, I'll tell the chief I told him to call you at 3 o'clock. So, obviously, like, smoke detectors are expensive, okay? And the more sophisticated they are, the more expensive they are. But ask yourself this: do you want the Geo Metro of life-saving technology, or do you want the Cadillac Escalade? You know what I mean? Because you don't get a second run at it. Most of the time, you don't get a second run at it. So spend a little bit more money, and no disrespect to you, I'm not saying, spend a little bit more money to make sure that you're getting the ones that communicate together. Because some of the off-brands that you can buy, I've seen them as low as $14.99. They don't have that technology. Okay, so you're not going to hear it if it's going off in the basement and you're on the second floor. You're just not going to hear it, especially if you're sleeping.
My son is a firefighter in Wisconsin. He bought them, he installed them. So he would have bought the right thing.
And it very well
He's
could be a
very
problem.
educated. He actually teaches in a firefighting school in Apple.
Apple.
If he would have bought the right stuff?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So
I'm not bothered.
no, I meant no disrespect on that, but there are people that they're going to go in and they're going to buy the cheapest because they think, oh, it just needs to be, right? Make sure that they're communicating. Now, obviously, hearing that, I guarantee you his son did not buy the $14.99 smoke detectors. But that just proves that even the more expensive ones, they can fail. Okay? They should be communicating. Any other questions?
About a week ago, I didn't mind driving me nuts. Wondered if they do this little beep, beep, and you're walking around looking. I got like 4 or 5 different ones. I'm a one-story house. I'm going from room to room, standing there waiting. Okay, was that? No, I hear it over that way. I have to run over the other place, and then it sounds like it's coming from that way.
Well, I can tell you what that intermittent beep means. Your battery's going down.
Yeah, batteries are going low.
So,
But I usually change them all.
I was just gonna say that.
At a certain time.
if you have one headlight out, do you just change the one headlight bulb? No, you change both of them, right? If your brakes are bad on one side, they're probably bad on the other, right? Same with your smoke detectors. If you're replacing one, replace them all. You know, or battery, not the detector, the batteries. Okay? But yeah, I want to say it was Kittle. Kittle used to have, one of their smoke detectors had a button that had the LED bars that would show you your battery life. You know what I mean? You just press the test button and it didn't, it would just beep. It wouldn't beep, beep, beep. It would just give one beep, and then the lines on the battery bar would show you.
There's a green light that will blink every so often.
Right, showing you that all systems are go.
It's telling you that everything's okay.
Yeah. So again, smoke detectors can be just battery operated, but they can't be hardwired, just hardwired. They are always hardwired with a battery backup. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
I don't know how old they are, but they're called one.
Absolutely. Jane, can you go over the Historical Society tomorrow? Or no, I'm sorry, he's Thursday, even better. I work tomorrow on the ambulance, so Thursday I will stop over. 10 to 2. All right, Mayor Betty, you got to call and remind me. I'll put it on my calendar, but I still want Mayor Betty to call me. Yes, ma'am.
Do you ever test anything with Grandview Tower?
So the Grandview Towers and Bridgeville Towers are a little different scenario. They are required by law to have their fire systems tested by a company. So that is happening for the overall fire system. Now, are you talking about smoke detectors in your personal apartment?
No, the building.
Yes, they are required by law to have their systems checked. Yep.
Fire.
Their whole fire system has to be checked, all the fire extinguishers in the building, every single year. That's fire code.
Now, when the fire alarm goes off in our building, it comes right through here, correct?
No. So that's a very good question.
Well, then how, they call you because Grandview Tower goes directly to the fire alarm.
That's not true.
In our building.
No. So how fire alarms work, there's smoke alarms that you have in your home. They're not an automatic alarm system unless you have a security system with the smoke detectors that are hardwired into that system, okay? And those, you have a monitoring company, ADT or whatever, you know? But your standard smoke detectors, they don't communicate at all. It still takes a person to call us and let us know that that alarm is activated. And in commercial structure, high occupancy commercial structure, the fire alarm systems have to be monitored. So when the fire alarm, smoke alarm goes off, it goes to whoever they contract for their alarm company. Their alarm company is gonna call somebody on site or a maintenance man who's never on site and say, hey, we got a fire alarm activation at 1001 Grandview Avenue, 6th floor smoke detector. Yeah, there's a fire. Okay, then they're then gonna call 911 and give them all that information. 911's gonna then dispatch us and we're gonna respond. Okay? So, if you hear the fire alarm going off, pick up the phone, cut out the middleman, and call us. Because we're gonna get there quicker. Because instead of it going to this hand, and from this hand to this hand, and from this hand to this hand.
You can call the fire department number.
Well, no, our number is 911. Because we're not paid, so we don't have people here 24 hours.
Sure.
Even if we were paid, if we're out on a call and somebody's not here, you always call 911. Listen, you can start off by saying, this isn't a real emergency, but I need fire for whatever. You know, I got a water leak in my house and it's flooding my basement. That, you're probably thinking, I don't want to call 911 for
There's
that.
10 floors, oh, they tell us, do not open our door.
Do not open your
Do
door.
not open
You are going to shelter in place.
Do not.
So even if the building is on fire, those high occupancy apartments, Bridgeville Towers, Grandview Towers, Bridgeville Towers, Grandview Towers, St. Clair Villas, and I forget what they changed the other name to, but the Manor. Those are block rooms. Okay, the fire is not going to jump from this room to this room unless the door is open. Then the fire could come in. But that's a fire-rated door that is concrete ceilings, floor, and walls. The worst thing that could happen is if the fire is in the apartment directly below you and it blows out the window and the flames are shooting up the outside of the building, could it break the window directly above and then enter the apartment that way? Yes, it could. We are going to be there before that happens. Okay? But those high occupancy apartments, they're built for you to shelter in place. So if you live on the 8th floor and there is a fire on the 8th floor, we are going to evacuate you. We are also going to evacuate the 9th floor, the one directly above. That's it. We are not evacuating the whole building. Okay? Now, if conditions change, the floors above that, yes, we may,
The only one above the 9.
right, we may have to evacuate.
So that's the elevators, have you walked on all this?
Unfortunately, you're going to walk down all the steps. Okay? Why do you not get into an elevator? Elevators can short out and fail on the fire floor. The doors will open, and you will literally open up to an oven. So use the stairs. If you cannot navigate the stairs for whatever reason, you then call 911 and you say, the fire alarm's going off, I'm in apartment 801, I'm in the living room or whatever room that you're in, and I cannot get out on my own. And then they are in turn going to tell us all that same information, and guess what? We're coming for you, and we're going to carry you down those steps. Okay? Good question.
But I mean, just, if there's a fire, sometimes nobody even calls, so they tell me that we're connected right to the fire department. I never believed that. I never believed that.
Now, back in the, like in the big cities and stuff like that, I can kind of see something like that. Who remembers, and I don't know if Bridgeville ever had them, the pool boxes, the fire boxes on the corners.
Yeah.
So, in the fire service, to this day, the FDNY, when they get a fire, and there's some other big fire departments that say it too, they'll say box alarm, box 6992. That means that they received that alarm for one of those pool boxes. That pool box number is 6992. That host company, meaning that closest fire engine or truck, that box, they will have a key to that box. So when they pull up, literally they will open the box, you know what I mean, to make sure that it was actually activated. That is if they don't see anything when they pull onto the street. Obviously, if they see on the street, they know that it's a good box alarm, okay? That's antiquated technology. It was really cool technology. It is still used in some areas. But now with everybody having a cell phone and things like that, even kids, it's really not something that's needed. Yes, sir.
I got a question. So many times you'll hear talking that it's a 4-alarm fire or 5-alarm fire. I was always told that was according to how many different companies
Correct.
show up. Is that what that is?
Kind of. So, a 1-alarm fire in Bridgeville gets 5 fire departments. Okay? It's 117, which is Bridgeville, 125 is Presto, 266, which is Cuddy, 284, which is Upper St. Clair, and Bethel Park, 110 for the RIT, which I'll explain what RIT is in a minute. Plus it gets Southbridge EMS, okay? So that's a 1-alarm fire. Even though there's 5 companies, that's not a 5-alarm. I get on scene or another officer gets on scene and determines that, hey, we need more help. And they call for a 2nd alarm. That will get you an additional 2 fire engines and an additional 2 ladder trucks. Then the 3rd alarm gets you an additional 2 engines, an additional 2 ladder trucks, an additional RIT team, and 2 additional chief officers. And then a 4th alarm, another 2 engines, another 2 trucks, and another chief officer. And then a 5th alarm. Those are big fires. When you hear a 5-alarm fire, actually, when you hear a 3 or 4-alarm fire, it's big. When you hear a 5-alarm fire, that's what we call a block party. We don't mean that literally, but we mean the whole block's off. You know?
Somebody told me that that's what it referred to as like a 4-alarm fire. It was four trucks were showing up. 5 was 5 trucks.
No.
I said, no, that can't be.
No. An alarm, like some of your municipalities will have all their alarms set the same way. So in the 1st alarm, they get 2 engines, or 4 engines, 2 trucks. 2nd alarm, they get 4 engines, 2 trucks. 3rd alarm, they get 4 engines, 2 trucks. I personally think that's redundant, because first off, after that 2nd alarm, those ladder trucks that they're bringing, you're not going to get them close to the building, close enough to the building to be able to fly the ladder and do anything anyway. So our alarm structure is a little different. Well, it's a little different than some areas. Like we all pretty much operate on the same, in the Char Valley, even South Fayette, Char Valley, South Fayette, we operate the same number of engines and trucks alarm for our 1st alarm. And then our 2nd and 3rd and 4th alarm is 2 and 2. Any other questions? Is there anything that I missed that you want to talk about? I have to admit, I'm not a great public.
Go back to your snake health.
Oh, yes. So, as I'm telling this story, there's one thing that I want to say. Police, fire, EMS, it's all the same. If you have a phobia, you do not tell anyone that you're afraid of anything, right? Because it will come back and haunt you. So now let's talk about the fire up here on Liberty Street. It come in, structure fire. Obviously, the first person coming down the street could see that the house was rocking, right? They get on scene, poor Matt. Matt Heckman. Matt Heckman is probably 6'3", 290, built like a brick, you know what, right? So they're advancing a hose line in the 1st floor. They start up the steps, and a bearded dragon come down the steps. Matt seen it, turned, he didn't touch a step on his way out, okay? He was ghost. In addition to the bearded dragon, they had 9 different types of snakes. Some of them were venomous snakes. We didn't know anything about any of this, obviously. Ironically, the cause of the fire was the heat rock in one of the reptile cages is what caused the fire. But yeah, people don't think of that. People, hey, I have these exotic pets. Hey, look, if you want to have them and they're legal, fine. Let us know, okay? Because you never know when we're going to have to respond to something like that, right? Well, I told you never let anyone in the public safety sector know your weaknesses, right? Occasionally, rubber snakes will end up in Matt's boots. They will end up in his helmet. Spiders, we have people that are afraid of spiders. They'll dangle in people's lockers and things like that. It's all in good fun. But yeah, that's one thing that I learned at a very young age in my career is don't open your mouth about fears and weaknesses. Period. They will come back and haunt you. Ask Matt. We do it all the time. Any other questions? I hope you guys learned some things.